Hello, curious! Every place on Earth has its own urban legends, myths, or spooky histories, and some of them have even become worldwide. For example, the story about Bigfoot in American forests, and others are only known to be from mouth to mouth throughout the years. And in Scandinavia, since the times of the Vikings, people believe in ghost hauntings, zombies, and in Egypt, even naughty children are scared about a creature with a burned body. And while in South Africa, girls are afraid to use the bathroom until the day of the terrifying story of the demon Pinky Pink. And such urban legends were the greatest, and to date we have selected the most wonderful ones, and especially for the best. And we will tell you all about the haunted doll from Florida and the most famous bloody monster. But before we go any further, we would like for you to click on the subscription button, turn on notifications, and give us a thumbs up. So let's get to it. So are there any horrific stories circulating in your place of residence? Or maybe your parents or grandparents told you about them when you were little? Let's start with the fact that in Egypt, parents know very well how to make their children behave nicely, and whenever they do not want to do their homework or do their homework too much, they are told a story about a monster called Abul Regil Masulka. Wow, and what is known about him is that he appears out of nowhere, has a ghastly appearance, and limps towards the victim with one leg, which is completely burned for unknown reasons, and the creature is to come to all naughty children and punish them by taking one of their healthy legs to replace its own, destroyed by the flames. And there are many more versions of what else Abul Rajul can do to bullies, and the story itself is also one of the many Egyptian legends that can keep you awake at night. Let's move on to Scandinavia, where it is believed that after dark, the living can experience an encounter with the Gjenganger, whose name means walking after death. Yeah, you heard that right. And according to the story, it is a ghost and a zombie creature that appears in this world when a deceased person has unfinished business or lost his life as a result of a crime. And in the folklore part of that world, the Gjengangers have existed since the times of the Vikings, and people most fear not to get pinched by them while sleeping because the person who experienced it is marked for illness or death. In South Africa, there is an urban legend about the demon Pinky, who is said to scare only girls, and it is believed that he appears in school bathrooms and has intensely pink hair, and as soon as he has that someone that he's wearing their underwear of this color, he immediately jumps at them. And according to the legend, Pinky, when he goes berserk, is capable of anything, even taking life. And if she does it with his huge claws that she carries on each hand. So therefore, in South Africa, all little girls at all costs try not to provoke the monster and are even afraid to go to the bathroom alone, so not to be its victim. Another terrifying story also revolves around a seemingly innocent-looking little doll known as Robert the Doll. Well, it can be seen in one of the museums in Florida, and it is rumored to be haunted. It was originally presented as a gift to the little boy named Robert Eugene Otto, but when the mysterious events or even the unexplained deaths began to take place in the surrounding shortly after, the boy's parents gave the doll to the museum so that it would be locked in a sealed case. And to this day, people say that anyone who comes to see it and does not ask for permission to be photographed will experience misfortunes and tragedies in their lives. Robert the Doll is also said to be the prototype for one of the most famous characters from the horror movies, but you will learn a lot more about that in one of our earlier episodes entitled Chucky the Doll. Did a scary voodoo story inspire this horror movie? To which a link is now appearing on your screen. There are many more urban legends circulating throughout America, and another one is the story of the water children, who can mostly be seen around Utah and Idaho. And according to the indigenous peoples in those areas, the aquatic infants are the ghosts of young Shoshone children who were thrown into the lake by their parents, and in this way they wanted to protect them from starvation in times of enormous crop failure. And it is also claimed that their crying can still be heard when you sit on the rocks around the local lakes. And while some stories report that the children simply drowned, other versions argue that the little ones grew gills in the waters and now are sea creatures and have sworn vengeance on the living. However, none of these stories about underwater monsters can match the most famous one, and the story of a creature swimming in the Loch Ness. The cult Nessie awakens the imagination to this day and is subject to one of the most popular legends around the world. And speaking of the most famous monsters in history, it is impossible not to mention the Bigfoot, the American equivalent of the Yeti. And yes, the origins of the Bigfoot legend date back to 1958, when reports of enormous footprints in the forests of Northern California for the first time appeared in the press. And since the entire country has been downright addicted to trying to spot a mysterious gigantic creature, well, his myth continues, and it has become an inspiration for countless films, books, and seekers that are still hunting with their cameras, hoping that one day they will manage to capture the legendary figure through the lens. Moving on, Bloody Mary may be associated with popular drink for most of you, but for Americans, she is primarily a character in a terrifying urban legend. According to her, Mary can appear in the mirror when you say her name 3 times, but only a few choose to do so, and according to a legend, when you actually see an apparition, you disappear from this world to be trapped in the mirror for eternity, and according to another version, you do not live to see the next morning because Bloody Mary takes vengeance cruelly on the people who disturb her peace, and various sources for this story are also given. So according to some, it was based on the true story of a witch named Mary, Worth of course, who walked around this world for about 100 years ago, but there's also more a modern version that Mary is a woman who died in a car accident and her face was terribly disfigured, and now she returns to Earth whenever anyone dares to say her name. In Japan, however, you can scare someone with the name Kuchisake Onna, who is said to be wandering in various dark corners of cities, and it's always wearing a surgical mask, and when it approaches someone who wants to see what she really looks like, it removes it from its face and shows the deep cuts on the side of her mouth, and that makes her scary smile extend from ear to ear. But that's not all, as the spirit forces of the person who sees him do the exactly same thing to himself, and make his face look as dirty as it is that it did with him. But that's not all, as the spirit forces the person who sees it to do the exact same thing with himself and to make its face look as dirty as it did with it. Perhaps we will mention a few words about the most famous ghost from the Mexican urban legend, La Llorona, and it is not only a heroine of horror movies, but a real drowned woman who, according to the stories, was abandoned by her husband during her lifetime and, out of regret, drowned herself and her children in one of the Mexican lakes. However, it returns to Earth and appears at night near reservoirs and rivers, and it wears dirty white robes, cries terribly, and wanders in the search of her sons and daughters. So the legend has it that who sees her also loses their children, and La Llorona kidnaps them with her to replace her own. And so do you curious people know any other equally terrifying urban legends? And tell me, do you believe in such stories? Or maybe in your opinion, it's just a figment of human imagination? Would you dare to say Bloody Mary 3 times in front of a mirror? Or in your childhood, when you were naughty, your parents scared you with various horrifying stories, like the one from Egypt? Be sure to let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up, turn on the notifications, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time!